Welcome to the Grounds for Success podcast. I'm your host, Austin Seltzer. Together, we'll unveil the keys to success in the music industry. Join me as I explore my guests' life stories and experiences to uncover practical insights to help you align with your goals more effectively. Hey, coffee drinkers. Welcome to the Grounds for Success podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe for more content from this channel. I'd love to be able to get it to you in the best way possible. On today's episode, we have Niki DeMar. I cannot wait for you to listen or watch this episode. Niki has been creating content for YouTube for 13 years now, and this happens to be my very first podcast that we filmed. And you will just see how much of a professional she is, how long she's been doing this, and at like a very, very high level. It's very apparent from the footage and from our talk. So I can't wait for you to see what a pro content creator looks like. In this episode, we will obviously talk about her 13 years of content creation from YouTube and different blogs with her and her sister, Gabi. But we will also talk about so many other things, like her album that's going to drop this week on Friday, depending on whenever you're listening. It's called Ruined My Life, and I got to mix and master the whole album for her, and I really, really love this rock grunge era of her music. I'm sure you will too. We also talk about what a mix engineer can bring to a project. It's sometimes a miscellaneous thing for some artists or people who are starting out in music or just like haven't worked with a mixer before. And so we'll talk a little bit about what I do. And I'm sure on future episodes, we'll talk more deeply about the mixing process. But we also talk about how she's moving her career to be more independent from her sister and just like create her own lane, her own sound, her own look. And, that's a fun thing to dive into. And lastly, a big thing is we'll talk about how to navigate bad press. Whenever you step into the spotlight, no matter what, people are going to say things. And I thought that would be interesting for me to ask because I want for this podcast to become a big thing and touch a lot of lives. And I know that there will be times when some people say some things that are negative towards me or there's quote unquote bad press. And I wanted to figure out how to navigate it. And I thought that maybe that would help some of you out there as well. All right, let's get caffeinated. All right, Niki DeMar.
Hello. This is such a cool set. Guys, I wish you could be here in person. It's like an experience. It's like haunted house meets mid-century modern meets gothic, but also kind of like the friend's apartment. I don't know. It's like cozy coffee shop coolness.
I don't think there's any way that I could have said that better. Like if I were to put down what I wanted this to be, that would have been it, but I wouldn't have been able to find those words.
So you like really did it, like, because the vibe is very clear.
That's so awesome. Yes.
We love it here.
Heck yeah. The other thing is coffee. So we're going to have a great conversation about wherever the caffeine takes us and hopefully deep places and places of success, but places of like total trial and failing to figuring out, the right things and going more in that direction, but kind of all centered around coffee. So something I'm super passionate about.
And any of like my iconics watching this know how on brand that is for me. Like all I used to vlog about was coffee. I'm a Dunkin' girl, East Coast girl.
Okay.
So I love my Dunkin' and I still love my Dunkin'. But yeah, I want to see this coffee that Austin recommended to me. This is his favorite coffee that he made me. And he asked specifically what I wanted. And I said iced coffee because you guys know I don't drink hot coffee. I went viral for having a meltdown over being served hot coffee and not iced coffee. We're not really proud of it, but it happened.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, like vice versa for me, I might have a little hissy fit if
you get it.
If I got iced coffee, I'd be like, oh my God. But then I told you I like chomping ice, so.
Yeah, that was confusing. He's like, yeah, I'm an ice chomper. I'm like, so you like iced coffee? He's like, no, I'm a hot coffee person. I'm like, okay, got it. But I'm like a coffee and an ice chomper person in one. So.
Well, it's going to be perfect. So basically I had made cold brew overnight, and then just whipped up some creamer.
With these
And
nice mugs.
yes, my little makeshift mugs, because I wanted to make sure that we had something branded for the
This
podcast.
is so cool. You know, I have black mugs in my house too.
That's the only way to go.
Yeah. Should I try it?
Well, of course.
Okay, cheers.
And I just made the same, but hot.
Oh my God, this looks really good. Oh my God.
Is it actually good?
Yes. I'm a coffee girl, and for how basic I've been drinking my coffees lately, we'll get into that. I actually have some like health changes in my life, but I have to eat a very, very simple, bland diet, and my coffees aren't as fun as they used to be. And when I told Austin it has to be black or have like a dairy-free creamer, low sugar content, he was like, got it. And I was worried how it was going to taste because this is fairly new, having this diet, and wow, this is really good.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And I think if you like stir it and all, you can get all the yumminess
ASMR.
down in there. Yeah. Ooh.
I could tell like some heart was put into this cup, which means a lot.
It was. I try to do that with every cup. You know, some just have maybe not more love, but more, it's just better, you know.
This conversation is about to get so good because when I have coffee, like I'm a small person, so coffee goes through me very quick, if you know what I'm saying.
The best part is, like, for everybody who's watching this, my bathroom's upstairs
Oh, great.
through a couple locked doors. So it's going to be fun.
Oh, great.
gonna be
When
a
the
great
coffee
adventure.
hits. But until that happens, I get very talkative, chatty, and I feel the coffee high very easily.
Ooh, okay. So we have to time this out here.
Yeah.
Well, what does a normal day today look like for you?
I could have answered that very well during quarantine. But right now, what a normal day in my life looks like, I almost don't have one. I have two different normal days, when I'm in LA and when I'm in Pennsylvania. And for those that like don't know and aren't familiar with me, I run a YouTube channel with my twin sister in Pennsylvania. I have for like a decade. And LA has been something that has always been calling me back to it. I'll come here. I've lived here. I moved home. Now I feel like the universe is like pulling me back. And my normal day in Pennsylvania is very simple. There's not a lot to do there. So it's very work focused, very content heavy, and a lot of working out. It's just working out and working. And then in LA, it's very, I actually feel like I go off my routine that grounds me when I'm out here because I don't belong to a gym. I don't know any neighborhoods to work out or walk in, but I do have a very big social life here. So every time I'm here, I'm working on music or with friends, and I don't have a normal day here yet, but my normal day at home is like, it starts with a walk, and I have to eat 3 meals a day, and it's very structured, and I have to go to bed early because if I sleep in, I hate myself. It's very structured at home, and then here we just kind of like peace out a little bit.
Wow, I mean, we're already getting into what makes you successful, to be honest. Like, that is the point of this podcast, but we'll get there.
Grounds for success.
Grounds for success. But like a routine, I think if you find successful people, generally there's a routine. Even if that looks like total chaos, it's probably routine chaos. So, you know, we'll get in there.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, LA has so many interesting things to do, to see, people to be around. The hustle energy here is no joke. Like, people always talk about that, but every single time that I go away from LA, it could be to see my family, to take a trip, to vacation, which always ends up being work, you know? But you come back to LA and you're like, damn, there's just something about the atmosphere here. You can go to a coffee shop, you could go to lunch, you could go to wherever, and you just feel it. The people around you are bubbling with potential, or you know, just this creative energy or drive that I don't find other places. So I can totally see how if you don't live here full time, that could throw me out of whack.
Yeah, like I actually feel like from a content creator perspective, it's actually works against what I'm supposed to do, like that kind of energy. But then as I'm getting older, I want to get more business savvy, and that does exist here. So it's a constant confusion. It's like when I'm back at home, there really is nothing to do. But there's the seasons change in Pennsylvania. My family's there. Um, that's where my roots, like I go back to my roots, like that's where it all started. I'm very inspired there. So I make a lot of content, and a lot of the content I make there does very well. But then when I come to LA, I almost feel like people don't think it's relatable, like my viewers. And I've constantly struggled with that. My views, for some reason, my entire career, the views haven't been in LA. They've been in Pennsylvania for me, which is really weird. Because I haven't seen that for really other creators. So I don't know why it's different like that for me. I really think I have a very strong East Coast fan base. That's the only thing that I think could be the reason why that happens. Also, I feel like when I'm out here, because I have such a social life and because music's out here, and that's really what all I want to do all day, every day, I feel like I am so not focused on making content. I'm just making music, partying with my friends, or I'm at like a lot of like business lunches and dinners and networking. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I haven't filmed a YouTube video in 2 weeks, or wow, I haven't posted on TikTok in 2 weeks. And then that freaks me out. So it's like, as a content creator, I almost think a content creator with ADHD, it's good to strip away my distractions and be in Pennsylvania and almost put myself in a prison because I get creative. Like when I'm challenged, I get creative. And then when I'm in like the hot spot of things, I struggle a little bit because I want to do everything. So my life, I mean, this is just the start of the conversation. We're going to get more into it, but it's very weird, like the way it's set up.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. As a content creator, I could see, that would be very difficult to continue going on whenever you're thrown out of your routine. But also from like let's call it a life creator or just like an art creator perspective, if you're not doing something like you do in LA, throw your life into a little bit of chaos, let's call it. Like, chaos means just not a routine. So you're out with friends, you're partying, you're just meeting people, you're doing things that are not regular in Pennsylvania. That's how you can create art. Because if it's always
Yes.
routine and always the same, one, the art may always be the same, but at some point there won't be art. You just won't be able to create because you don't have new inspiration.
And I'm about to turn 28 next month. And I think that's like my goal of being 28 is like create something no matter where you live or no matter what trip you're on, you stay grounded in yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That resonates so hard with me because I always eat at the same time each day. This could be like looked at as a little bit crazy, but I I don't know. I love routine because the way that I think of routine is like a bowling alley. Whenever you put those bumpers up on the bowling alley, that's the routine so that you can be free to do creatively whatever happens in between those bumpers. So I generally like to go to sleep around 9:30 to 10, maybe 10:30. I know that's kind of early, but then I wake up early and I really feel recharged. My body and my circadian rhythm wants me to go to sleep early and wake up early. I just feel better that way. And I eat at the same time each day, roughly.
I do have a question for you though, because I know you're a creative. If you guys don't know, Austin mixes my music, and you are so like honest to God, like so talented. Like you take a song, usually mixing is just like, I used to think as an artist was just finalizing things, but you actually evolve it and you make it all cohesive, but you evolve the songs. It's like you're a different type of producer. I didn't realize that when I started. And I get so creative at nighttime. And I'm a video editor. I edit a lot of my music videos. And that's literally where I see myself. I see myself being an artist, but also making content for other artists while still doing social media. But I worry about, with getting in this routine, I've noticed I don't have my creative night hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm worried about giving up. And I feel much more stable. I feel more like an adult. I feel energized. I feel excited to do the boring things, which as an ADHD person, that's all you could ask for without being medicated. But I'm scared of not having my nights alone, like the EP. Like sometimes at like 5 a.m, if I stay up till 5 a.m. editing, I not only edit fast, but it's an incredible edit. And I couldn't have done that during the day. And that scares me a little bit. So I'm wondering, I have a question for you.
I love that.
Did you ever experience what I'm talking about where like you're hyper focused on what you're passionate about at nighttime and you almost got your nights and days messed up and you're like during the day, you're not inspired, but at night you work so hard and it's amazing. And if you did experience that, how do you get that going during normal day hours? Because my brain doesn't seem to work like that.
Wow. Thank you for asking me a question and actually like a really great one. So I find that it takes way more focus and way more like alertness to mix and master than to create. Creating, I really do think that harnessing that nighttime deliriousness, whatever it is. And then for me during the day, if I wake up early, I can just go in the studio and you walk through the studio, it's pretty dark.
It feels like that.
It feels like night.
So maybe I need to create a space like that.
Yeah, I think that subconsciously I created a space that channels nighttime.
That's a genius idea.
But I can't take credit because it just happened. It just was what my mind wanted.
Even a space like this is kind of like what my old apartment used to look like. I was just telling Austin guys, like, this is very much giving, like I said, like the friend's apartment with black walls and like coffee shop vibes. And my old apartment, the theme was coffee shop. I have a whole video. I'm gonna have to show it to you.
Damn, we're gonna be best friends.
We are. Like, we're literally so compatible. Like even interior design, like, and also music wise. And I'm like, okay, are we like best friends?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which this is a great way to segue into what we were talking about when I first got here, which was getting older and like your definition of career and success and happiness completely changing. And that the reason this conversation was even being had with my one friend was because I've been asking myself a lot this year if I want to even stay doing this, like social media. Now, I love social media. I'm like almost addicted to it. I love posting.
Almost?
I'm very addicted. I can't get off my phone. I love talking to these guys. They're literally my besties. I love vlogging. It's almost like no, it's not almost. I am getting paid to do my hobby, which what more can someone ask for? However, there is a dark side to that. And once your hobby becomes the way you put food on your table, it almost doesn't stay a hobby anymore. And I'm curious that like the older I get, if I can have something maybe I'm not so in love with to put food on my table, and then I get to do this for fun, then I would love my content better. And I would take away that stress of having to if I want to pay my mortgage and eat dinner, do I really have to put my face out there and exploit my personal life because I have to exist somehow? And that's something that, I'm in my late 20s. I'm entering my late 20s. I went from 27 to I'm literally going to be 28 next month. I have no anxiety about getting older, which I used to have so much anxiety about, because I feel like, look, if my 20-year-old self could look at my 28-year-old self, would she be disappointed or let down in some ways? Absolutely. But I'm not here for that. Like I don't care what other people or my past self, hold on.
And we're back.
So what's really interesting is like, it sounds depressing to say that if my 20-year-old self saw my 28-year-old self, she would be let down in some ways. Like that sounds depressing, right? But I'm actually like happy. And I think that's because the purpose of life and what means the most to me has completely changed. And almost 28-year-old Niki is happy. 20-year-old Niki valued different things. And that's all that is. It's not that I'm not living my dreams or that I'm not meeting the standards I set for myself when I was that age. It's that if I followed the path of what 20-year-old Niki wanted, 28-year-old Niki would not be happy at all. And I think that's interesting. And I think that's why I'm starting to have these conversations, because it's like, it does, nothing means failure. It's pivoting. And I think in life, like, you're supposed to pivot. Like, you're always evolving. You're always, and I think quarantine taught me that. Like, you're allowed to pause and live a slow life if that's what you need to do for a bit. You don't need to join hustle culture and be a girl boss. You also don't need to live in a specific place. You can constantly just reflect and ask, constantly check in and figure out what this version of yourself wants and needs. And it's always changing. And, you know, I've been growing up online, and I feel like the people that have been watching me for a long time are like, Niki, you're never happy. You lived in PA, then you moved to LA and you didn't like it there. And then you moved back and now you want to move back to LA because you're not happy there. Nothing's ever going to make you happy. And it's not that nothing's ever going to make me happy. It's that my idea of happiness is always evolving, and I'm just trying to flow with it. And I am fortunate enough to have a job to where it pays good enough to where I can have the ability to check in and evolve my life. And I'm very aware that a lot of people don't have that luxury of being able to, you know, choose, I want to live a little bit of a slower life. I want to live here. I want to live there. And that's where I really feel lucky that my 20-year-old self hustled her ass off. I didn't realize by like dropping out of college and skipping out on the partying years of my life that I was building something that would sustain me through all of my 20s. That's incredible. But you know, I've been asking myself, like, what if, it's not asking myself, I almost feel like I have this intuition where it's like, I'm always going to be online because I love it, but I don't know if I want that to be my only thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. I think that for the people listening, I mean, I resonate with what you're saying so much. Like, it actually is, what you're describing is much of what I've gone through. I have pivoted so many times, and there's a Friends joke in there about pivoting. Do you know
Yeah.
the pivot?
Pivot.
So
Ross.
we're back to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're back to Friends. But with all of those pivots, I stayed the course, which was I love music. I love it to its core. Like, my core being, if I have a hangover, or if I am having a terrible day, or whatever the case is that's not optimal, if I play some music I love, I immediately feel better. That is my drug. Music. I love it. And through all these different pivots, you know, they've all been a different angle of music. It's always been music. And the thing that I wanted to tell the people who are fans of yours who maybe don't understand you going back and forth between coasts.
As a creative, like you said, disrupting the routine, getting out there, traveling, being alone and traveling, I feel like I'm becoming the person I want to be. And yeah, I do fly a lot, but that's something that is helping me become less codependent, get perspective, get inspired. And I love doing this, but I definitely think there's more I want to try out. And there's nothing wrong with trying.
Yeah, I love that for you, because like in the conversation that we've had here, and then I'm sure that listeners can understand we had a nice conversation before this because we keep on referring to it, that you genuinely want to help others, and you want to be a deeper, not icon, a deeper person in your viewer's life.
Like,
Like
add
you,
some lightness to this dark world.
yes.
And I think sometimes my influencer brand can be very like feeding into capitalism and like feeding into propaganda and feeding into, you need this, you need to look like this, your life needs to look like this. And that, like, it kills me to think that some people look at me just trying to put food on my table and think that, like, they almost are like, I need her life. No. Like, I want to talk about all the other things, but it's scary, you know?
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we can talk about some of those here.
Yeah.
Which leads me, I would love to rewind all the way back. What was childhood like? What was you and your sister's life early on and your family life? And I want to figure out how some of that shaped who you are, early in your 20s and who you are now. And probably some of what you got from your childhood, how that's going to propel you into the future.
That's such a good question. I want to say that my mom was raised had a very hard upbringing. And she tried to do the opposite with us. She wanted to give us everything she never had. My mom had nothing growing up. And obviously she's a dentist, met my dad in dental school. And now looking back, I think that my mom, she even says she feels bad, but she just didn't want us to carry the burden that she carried growing up. So she did the opposite. And we have the very, very, very opposite problems that my mom had. I'm learning finances now. I had a business manager that did everything for 10 years. And it's like, I'm fighting to learn that now. A lot of people, I've had to fire people who don't want me to grow up because they have control. I've had to fight people like, I want to look at what's going on. It's been hard, like really hard. And I haven't been able to talk about that online because someone can cut this up and say that Niki's bitching about XYZ. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, you should just not feel bad at all about learning those things now. One, because you are learning them now. But two, yeah, as a kid growing up, you're only subjected to so much. How you are raised is your world. And if you're not subjected to certain things like you're talking about, like doing chores and finances and the things that you said that you are now having to learn, as soon as that is now part of your life, there's no longer an excuse as to like this, I didn't know that that's the way. But now that you have been subjected to those things and you're changing, that is like, what more could you ask for? That means that you're evolving and adapting to what is now your life. And I could see how some people could complain about that, but if you just take a step back and understand that you don't know what you don't know.
And I do have to say, I think that I do have this career, the good side, or the side that really helped me create this is that my parents really did not burden me with anything, to the point where I was able to sit in my room and edit videos all night and not do chores. And my parents weren't hard on me to get straight A's. So like my focus was content creation and anything creative. So that was a luxury for sure. And I do think that that aided in where I am now. So I'm really grateful. So it's like, nothing's perfect. I was able to have that beautiful situation to be able to really dive into my creativity at a young age. And my parents encouraged my creativity. My dad encouraged it. A lot of parents don't encourage that. So I'm really blessed for that. But with good comes bad. And the bad is that because I was only a creative child, I have to now tap into the other side of my brain I completely didn't use growing up and like be logical and use logic and not make every decision based off emotions and actually be an adult and how to be organized by myself and not have to rely on people and stay on top of my shit and how to like stay on top of my living. That's something that I'm now learning to do. So, but I did have, siblings that were close in age, parents that supported my dreams, and a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
So that having like a twin sister, an older sister, all of us 2 years apart, like my older sister is a year and a half older, me and my twin, obviously same age. So all three of us were just constantly making content together. And now that I'm alone as an adult, because Gabi's off doing her thing, my older sister's off in New York City, making content alone is also very hard. Because like what's inspiring you if you're not having fun with people around you? So I'm having it a little bit harder, and I had it easier as a kid. And some people may have that flip-flopped.
my life was very fortunate. I got to just sit there and do that. And for anybody listening, I think that a cheat code to success is just figuring out how you can create as often as possible. Whatever you have to like formulate your life. Like if you want to be a music artist, you want to be a producer, or you want to be like a painting artist or a photographer, whatever that is, you have to be doing that
all the time.
all the time. So formulate your life in a way with a routine, with structure, whatever it is, to be able to create as much as possible. And it worked out for us where for you earlier in life than me, but the earlier the better. Just however you can create, like that's going to allow you to get those years in that we talked about, 10 years in before others. And that's the name of the game, is just be in the sandbox as early as possible and be making little sandcastles.
I also feel like, to add to that, I think alone time is huge.
Yes.
If you're constantly filling your cup with other people and trying to socialize 24/7 and what are my plans this week? What are my plans next week? What are my plans in a month? And life is just fun, 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 and you're constantly around other people. You're never really going to tap into really like where the fuck you could go and what you really want. I think personally, I've spent the last 2022 to 2023, I was grieving a breakup. And I needed that year of just socialization and traveling because, you got to heal somehow. And I spent so much time just with that person. I needed to just see what else was out there. But now looking back in hindsight, now that I'm starting to really crave my alone time again and give it to myself, I feel like I'm making strides by myself. And I think that my content, I'm so much more proud of it when I come up with better ideas when I'm alone. Even though I was like really privileged, I had a lot of alone time because I didn't have a lot of friends. Because the second I would make friends, it wouldn't last long. Because when there's two people, someone's gonna fuck up. If you only have to rely on yourself, you can keep friends for a while. The friends I've made in my 20s, just as Niki friends, they're still my friends. But the friends I've shared with Gabi, if she has a falling out with them, odds are it feels awkward with me too. Because if someone's hating on my sister, how can I be friends with them? So it's like when I was in high school, I didn't really have friends. I didn't want to go to football games. I didn't want to go to school dances. I didn't get invited to any graduation parties. I didn't have a graduation party. I graduated and that was it. And then I was YouTube. Let's go. Like literally.
Do you want to throw a graduation party in the studio? We can throw you a graduation party.
Sure. And honestly, party of two. And that's how I was in high school. I was like, I just want to be creative and have my party of 2 or 3. Like I wasn't a part of a big friend group. And I think that's why I am where I am. I think people senior year were just like kind of partying and relying on like clout and seniority and popularity while I was just like editing away. And I think sometimes it's silencing what you think you should be doing and really focusing on what lights you up. And I think that's why I am where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. The sacrifices that you made. That's one of the hardest things for people to see, are the sacrifices that creatives make.
So many people are like, Niki, why don't you just sell your house? Just move to LA. Just sell your house. And those are people from LA. And I look at them and I'm like, my gut says not yet, because I feel like I am really being creative when I'm over there. And that's a sacrifice. Like, I do get jealous of people that can wake up where all my friends live and they can wake up and be in the center of entertainment, because that is what I want eventually. But I'm very well aware that's down the road, but I'm still in this middle part. And Pennsylvania and alone time and the sacrifices that I am making are being rewarded.
No doubt. But I mean, all along your life, if we went back and we looked at day in and day out, the sacrifices that are made to make the content that you made are tremendous, where other people are out doing all sorts of fun stuff with their friends, which I'm sure that you did with a small group, here and there. I don't even have to ask you. I just know that to do the amount of content that you were creating, for me, just sitting in a room, just, having friends, hey, we're going out tonight doing blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, you want to come over? We're doing so-and-so. Man, I'm working on this song, which nobody ever got to listen to. But me just chipping away at learning the craft, um, there are probably thousands of times that I had to say no to things that I really wanted to do, and I am more than certain the same with you. It's just what you have to do to be great at something, whatever that is.
Choosing the craft over literally everything else.
Yeah.
In college, I actually didn't have a party phase the 3 years I was in college. People would invite me out and be like, "Nikki, come smoke. Nikki, come party." And I would say no because I'd stay inside and edit because I saw what I was creating for myself, and that meant more to me than anything else. And I was perceived as stuck up and that I thought I was better than everyone just because didn't want to party. But the irony is that now I feel like at 27, I'm getting the party years that I didn't get. I went through the breakup. I was in LA. I've never made more friends than I have this past year. I have so many amazing friends that I've made this year. And I've been hard on myself about it, like about being as social as I am because I'm so used to working on my craft. But I also think, like, I tell myself, like, you had to have this at some point in your life. You don't want to be like married with kids and like wonder. Like, everybody deserves to have a year or a few where they're just like,
For
but
sure.
like, I also think knowing when you need to focus back on yourself is important too. I mean, life is about balance. I mean, you're a Libra, you get balance.
Yeah. For everybody listening, I'm not super deep into astrology, but I do know that I'm a Libra, and I do know that it's a scale.
Very
So we know
balanced
that.
being. And I do have to pee really bad. Like,
Heck
the
yeah.
coffee's hitting.
This is a perfect time to stop.
Yes.
I mean, we'll come back.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Sweet. Heck yes. All right. So possibly like the main question of this podcast and exploring this, among other things, but what does success mean to you?
So we all definitely, like, when we hear success, I feel like we all see this vision in our head. And part of it could definitely be very materialistic. Like, obviously, like, house with a view, LA, cool, yeah. But that's like not the main thing anymore. That's like in the background. The main thing I really do see is waking up every day being genuinely happy and feeling very fulfilled, and the connections I have, whether that be like a family and a partner, building a beautiful life, and it could look like anything. And I think, like, I also see success as power, and that doesn't mean like controlling other people. That means creating something that's yours, and that is power. That's, as much as it's hard being a public figure, I didn't realize how powerful having a YouTube channel was until like literally this year. Because, doing music and all that stuff, you're realizing everyone's taking cuts and percentages, and they claim this and they half own this and that. My channel's mine. And no matter whether it's doing good or bad or whatever, that's like, it's complete ownership. But ultimately, I do see success now as being able to call something your own that no one else can claim as their own, and also just being happy.
That's a really cool thing to be able to reflect on.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I really think the basis of our hearts as humans is connection. And if you don't feel like, being alone and being lonely are very different feelings. When you're alone, you're probably choosing to be alone. And if you're lonely, that's like not out of choice. That's like, you really don't feel like you have anybody making you feel like they're holding you in this hard world. And I felt lonely for a really long time. And I felt lonely when I was making some of my highest income. And what was the point of making that high income if I felt that pulling in my stomach like every day? What was the point? So it's like, success to me is being able to breathe and not feeling like you're holding your breath through life because it's so hard.
Wow. Yeah, that last line, I don't know if you literally mean holding your breath, but there are many days where the stress level that I'm under with so many different projects and so many different emotions of I need this today because X, Y, and Z, but then also life things happening that I actually find myself holding my breath
We
because
do
I'm
it.
just holding on.
That's like
And
fight or flight. That's like, I don't know if you like know there's like breath work or breathing apps because as humans, like when we like don't breathe properly, like it only adds to the stress and the anxiety, and we do stop breathing. Literally, we're like when we're like writing an email, I don't breathe. Like, but literally, I'm like,
damn, what email is this? One that you don't want to be writing for sure.
for sure.
Your answer, everything that you've been saying, I resonate with a whole lot. But the part about was it worth working X amount of hard for more money? I have to say that I've thought about that exact thing a lot. I've never been in the position that you have, financially with a YouTube channel. I hope to be there and I hope to be happy doing it. But if we just scale it down and look at my life, if I hadn't had worked X amount of hard for whatever reward and then be like, wow, you know what? That really wasn't worth it. I wouldn't have that feeling. I wouldn't have that knowing. Like we can all look at, I don't know, big interviews with big whoever, and you can read 100 self-help books and they all say the same thing. But I don't know if it's just a human thing or if it's a some of us thing, but we have to feel it for ourselves
I always
because,
say I need to learn the hard way. People can tell me what to do, but I got to feel it and learn the lesson internally. I won't listen to other people's advice.
yeah, I became much better at listening to certain people after they've shown that I can really, like what they say actually is true. But then there's just some things that we have to learn. We just have to learn for ourselves. We have to touch the hot pan and burn ourselves. Like it's just the way it is. And I hope people listening to this take what you are saying and really listen to it. But I mean, we both know that people are still going to have to try things for themselves, but they'll look back and be like, damn, this is a way to spend it good here. Is that if you do set this goal, whatever it may be, and you do reach it and you are unhappy, that self empowerment of actually being able to reach the goal that you set for yourself is very powerful. And I think that that is also the power that you were talking about. And that is a
Absolutely.
very good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to have that self empowerment inside of us that we feel like we can reach a goal that we set out for ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't turn out the way that we want, there is a silver lining there.
I think a part of success is getting totally comfortable with failure.
Yes.
You have to be so ready for that failure and not care about what other people think and how they see you. I mean, I'm doing music right now. I'm very happy doing it. But I'm very aware that, with each release, we're always hoping for the best. Some songs stream more than others, but that can't be why you put it out. You can't be like waiting for the overnight thing to happen. Then don't do it. It's like get used to failure. Do it as if failure is always going to happen. That's how you know if you really love something or not. Is it worth it? If it still is, then you love it, and then you should absolutely keep doing it. And that's how you freaking know, That's
I
how you
mean,
know,
I'm literally writing a note in my mind right now because this is my first podcast episode. And I damn well know that it's going to take quite a while for this to catch on. I definitely think it will because we're going to have great conversations with great people just like we're having now. But
Consistency, that it all starts somewhere. You already have this incredible set. The concept is insane. Like, it's all there. It's just having fun now. Now it's time to play. And whether people are watching or not, just keep playing, keep playing. And then as long as like something I realized, okay, I hate to always make everything a lesson, but I learned a lot this year, okay?
give it to me. Let's go.
Give it to me. Give me the lesson. I don't know if you give me empath vibes. Are you an empath? Like you feel other people's energies and you try to, it can be overwhelming. If someone has bad energy, you feel it hard. If someone has good energy, you piggyback off that and you're always like reflecting other people's emotions back.
I would like to think that I am. I really do care about that.
I feel like I work with a lot of people and I can't say a lot of them are empaths, but every time I interact with you, I could tell there's like heart in everything. So I feel like you're really giving empath. And I feel like I'm definitely an empath. And I feel like that is something that is tricky to deal with, but it's such a gift. And I think that once you can like really use that, like it can easily bring you down because again, you're like picking off people's energies. But it can also really like bring shit up and bring in a ton of abundance.
Yes, there are so many people that have been in my life who no longer are in my life that made me feel a way that I don't want to feel. And I have to say, this is maybe something that I'm just getting, I'll say better at, because saying good, I don't know if I'm good, but I'm getting better at sensing immediately if I want somebody in my life or not, just by the way they make me feel. And I think it's because I've been through a lot of hard relationships, not like a romantic relationship, but like with a boss, at a job or a mentor or whoever, that made me feel so terrible about myself that I guess it's a trauma PTSD type thing that immediately if I feel that way, I'm like, okay, I can sense that this is not going to go the direction that I want to have, somebody in my life. And maybe I do get a pit in my stomach. So maybe it's just a different way for me, but synesthesia is a heck of a cool thing. Okay, so I want to ask, why did you write Ruin Your Life? Like of all the things that you could have chose.
I actually encourage people to ruin their life, as destructive as that sounds. I think that's basically saying, don't listen to what other people are thinking or saying. Do what you want to do, even if they perceive it as you fucking up or you ruining things. Walking away from a marriage, getting a divorce, moving, taking a leap of faith, quitting your job, actually doing what you love, like ruin your life. And in ways, I wouldn't say I've ruined my life. I'm dealing with new struggles because I'm maybe not being as structured about my life. But I do think, like you said, there's some beauty in the chaos. And I've had to check in on myself and ask the question, Niki, are you creating chaos because you were raised in chaos and chaos equals comfort to you? Or are you genuinely just trying to figure your shit out? And I'm definitely just trying to figure my shit out because I love feeling safety and comfort and I love routine. I'm an earth sign. I love to feel grounded. I definitely don't feel grounded this year whatsoever. So I'm trying to find ways to stay grounded, like working out, routine with going to bed, when I eat, like things like that. Maybe even like making playlists for each season and listening to repetitive songs to feel comfort when I'm not home.
I like that.
And it's like that is what's grounding me while I'm in this process of ruining my life.
Yeah, I think that you are ruining the box that people have put you in.
Yes.
That's I mean this year of chaos is really a year of growth.
Yes.
And it will just be a new box that you'll be in for a moment.
And then we break it again.
Exactly. I think that's what life is really about, is just continuously evolving and being very thankful for who you were yesterday and just as thankful and stoked to be who you are tomorrow. It's going to turn out beautiful.
Thank you. And you know what really stemmed this like whole movement I unintentionally started?
What did?
I had this realization on Christmas, not this past year, but the year before, where I was so not in my element, like my stomach. But I had to literally ask myself, how did I get here? And then I started really thinking. And then I realized that I was making other people comfortable while making myself completely uncomfortable. And that's when I realized I'm not living for myself. Looking back, I know why I did it now, but at the time I just felt like I had to and I didn't know why. Because it's like if you're going to end up with someone who's of the opposite sex, why come out? But I think I had this like intuitive feeling that now obviously I'm, living a queer lifestyle. And I knew that making, my sexuality was going to make people very uncomfortable, including my own parents. And I remember telling myself, Niki, like you can talk about being queer on social media, but you'll never talk about it with your parents unless you fall in love with someone who's of the same sex. Fast forward, I put myself in a situation where I'm like, oh shit, I gotta talk to my parents. I was like almost heartbroken over someone like of the same sex. So I needed emotionally my parents. So then I started opening up about it. And now it's a very normal conversation piece. It's my life now. And they're so accepting. And it took a bit because, it was a big change, especially for my dad. They're very like old fashioned. But that was a part of, ruining my life. It's like I'm ruining the daughter they saw for 26 years, like that image. And people think I'm ruining my life, but I think I'm doing what needs to be done. And my EP that's coming out in the summer is very much this theme of the unraveling, making change, a lot of breakup songs, but also a lot of empowering songs too.
Yeah. Funny enough, I think breakup songs are incredibly empowering. And I know that I think there are some breakup songs and some empowering songs, but breakup songs are very empowering.
I could see that though.
That was really My Chemical Romance and Slipknot. And yeah, just two very different types of music. But yeah, I think those were mine.
I was like
One's
Miley
like,
and Demi. I'm a Disney kid, okay?
I love both of them. They're both incredible. I mean, Demi's got a ridiculous voice. Not that Miley
I
doesn't. And then
know.
Miley's songs are just so iconic. Holy crap. Okay, so I'm curious, where do you see, we're talking about like Mount Everest here, like the pinnacle. Where do you see your life and I guess we could say career, and that doesn't mean music, but just overall, like I know we know one day you just want to be happy. And that's beautiful. Like that is the Mount Everest. But where do you see things going in your life from sitting here at almost 28, like musically, but other careers as well?
I want to be completely, absolutely independent from my sister career-wise. I want to not have to have everything so intertwined with my family. I want to be financially not just stable, but financially where I want to be on my own without having to be a twin publicly. And I see myself always having music in my life. When I was just doing YouTube with no music involved, I really, really felt purposeless. While everyone around me that was influencing, I could tell that their cups were being filled just by influencing, and I didn't understand. And it always felt like I was never satisfied, but that's just because I wasn't completely in my purpose. And I think YouTube's a part of it, a part of the connection, but I think music is the other part that I was missing. So I could see myself, there's a few things I can see. I see myself living in a new city like LA, building my family. I want to have a family. I for sure am meant to be a mom, like duh. I'm definitely gonna be a cringy mom one day. And I could
Let's have another podcast when you're a mom, and
yes.
we'll check in as we talked about earlier. This is a time capsule,
Like,
so
I see myself as like a soccer mom, low key. Like
we got to have the follow up episode
we do.
whenever your kids are playing soccer. I mean, I played soccer, so
Aw.
I resonate with this.
Aw. I see myself being the career woman with kids, being able to do both. Because I've always been told, like, you want to get married and have kids, like, good luck with your career. And then I've heard vice versa. Like, if you have the career, then you shouldn't want the kids. And if you have the kids, then you shouldn't want the career because you need to be home for the kids. And it's like, I love that. I can like work remote and YouTube gives me that. But I see myself honestly tapping more into the business side of things. And music is something I can't ever stop. Maybe it won't be as frequent one day, but I really feel like right now, like makes me so happy. I would love in a dream world to be a touring artist. Honestly, I say Halsey, and Pink. I want to be like a top charting artist with a family and involve my family in all that I do. And I want to have it all. I want to be the career person with the family. And I also see myself not just rooting for myself, but building up other artists and maybe directing and editing their music videos. So it's like I want to be nominated for a VMA and have one of my videos I worked on with a competitor or colleague and have their video be nominated even against mine, but I made their video.
Yeah.
Like I could see myself doing that.
That would be so much fun.
Oh, I'm like, editing is, you know how you made your career by being in your room piecing together music? I was editing music videos. I can edit a music video like top notch in an hour. It's like my weird passion. I would love to edit for other people, but I don't know how to get started. That's what we're looking into right now. I would love to like make music videos for like my artist friends, start there. I really like, you know how I have synesthesia, how I see colors when I hear numbers and songs? I see music videos when I hear a song. I see full-blown concepts, storylines. And I think that's a gift, and I need to like tap into that more.
It certainly is. Yeah, I love that so much. I think that the way to do it is just like you said. You can start with some friends, and you could just do it for free because it is a passion of yours, and it will be the gift that keeps on giving because those friends will tell other friends that you did it, and you will just get more content out there for people to see, oh my gosh, she really has a vision for, bringing these things to life. And I could see how that would be so creatively fulfilling for you. But somebody like Pink on the road, my gosh, what a cool thing where, the world knows you as Pink and this performer, but you get to have your family on the road and like a beautiful life along with a very massive career. I mean, Pink is as big as you can get. She is, my gosh, her career's gone on for so long and she's still so relevant.
That's the goal. Like, I don't need to rush to the top. I just want my career for a long time.
So, I don't know if everybody knows, but I got to mix your last two singles and master them. And I mean, it was really cool to get to look into your world. One of the producers was Mitty, a good friend of mine, who luckily brought me onto this project. Like that's kind of what started this relationship. And then Jules produced the last track that we did, Amnesia. But like looking forward to some of these other tracks that are going to be on this EP. Do you want to dive into? I don't know what all you can tell yet, but give us a taste of it.
So all these tracks were written over a span of a year and a half. So there is an evolution in all the songs. Some older ones you can tell have a little bit of my older flair on them. And like we can bleep this out, like bitch and before and after. And then some of the newer ones like Sorry Not Safe and Amnesia my newer ones have a darker, edgier tone because I think I'm at this more, I know I'm like pissing people off, but like, let's go type of stage. And then I feel like the older stuff on the project is a little bit more breakup, coming back from a breakup type songs. But overall, the entire EP is very influenced from older music from 10 to 20 years ago. So like, my first EP was very, I would say like trendy TikTok music because when I was stuck inside, I was just listening to Fresh Finds pop on Spotify, listening to new artists, experimenting with current sounds, and I loved that. I was making bedroom pop. And this past year and a half, I've been actually doing a lot of inner child healing. And one of those things was my sexuality. I remember the moment I knew I was queer. I was 12 watching America's Next Top Model. One of the contestants I had the biggest crush on. And I was like, this is wrong, Niki, this is wrong. And Ironically, I've been listening to music from 2007, from 7th grade, because now I'm like, now you can be this. And I've been listening to like Rihanna and like Pink and like Nelly Furtado, like Shut Up and Drive, Umbrella, like Gwen Stefani, like all that stuff. Old school Katy Perry, One of the Boys, like that album. I've been listening to all that, and like the Veronicas and 2000 music, like Blink 182 and like Destiny's Child. But we're doing like all the Disney girls when they were putting out pop punk music, but like current. And we're doing like a little bit of Gwen and Pink and even a little Rihanna, like party vibes. That's where I'm feeling. And Avril Lavigne, like that's not her earlier stuff, but more so like her girlfriend era. Like, that's where I'm really feeling. And there's mixed. This was going to be a breakup EP, and I was going to title it something breakup related. And then I realized, oh, like that is one thing under the umbrella of what this actually is. And then I called it something else. And I'm excited.
Yeah, hell yeah. I love that. I think that this ruin your life mentality, this box that we talked about you breaking out of, is finding your inner child.
Yes.
It's the, for a lack of a better word or way of saying it, is rediscovering the childhood that you weren't robbed of, but that you weren't, like, you didn't live.
Have you ever heard of delayed adolescence?
I have, but I don't know where. I think I listened to probably a podcast that dove into it a little bit, but
It's a big thing in the queer community, and I talked about it somewhere publicly, but I haven't really touched on it that much. But I've been wondering why I feel younger than I ever have in my entire life this year. I feel like a little kid. My energy is contagious, and I never been told that. I just got back from a trip with a brand, and all the friends I made on the trip said I was the life of the party. I've never been called that. I literally used to be called the Debbie Downer, negative Nancy, like, and people. I really think when I was younger, I was the life of the party, and then I got corrupted by like all that other shit, but like heartbreak and young adulthood and fame and stuff. But I think that my energy has gotten lighter, and therefore I feel younger, and I actually feel like I don't remind myself of who I was at 22. If someone would see my content now versus back then, they'd be like, whoa, she changed. I think for the better. But if you saw me in middle school and high school, that's who I look like a progression of. It's almost like I skipped. It's like this is me in middle school, high school. Then there's this blue hair era YouTuber Niki who was negative and depressed. And then there's me now. This isn't a continuation of that girl. This is a continuation of the high school, middle school Niki. I not only look like how I did back then, but I'm dressing how I did. And it feels like I'm back to myself. I came back home to myself. And inner child Niki, I'm like, anytime I feel like I'm having a panic attack or crying or I feel out of control, I almost am like talking to myself like, you got this, I'm here. Older Niki's here to make sure you're okay. And that's changed my life.
that's beautiful.
Thanks.
Have you, by any chance, what you just said reminds me of this. Have you read a book called The Alchemist?
No, everyone's told me to read it.
Okay. I'm guessing though, have you seen, we're going to go nerdy real quick because I am just a total nerd. Have you seen any of the Lord of the Rings, or have you seen the original 3 by chance?
I wasn't a Lord of the Rings kid.
Okay. I'm trying to think of a good analogy here, but there's this thing called the hero's journey. And it's across so many different like stories. I think, like any religious text or like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but The Alchemist is a book that everybody loves, it seems, who has read it. The whole idea behind it is that we must leave home and travel and go to a place that's unknown and that we don't understand to get back home. And home is where the heart is. But it's really who we were as a child that is us. But we have to journey far away from it to figure out that that's where we need to be. And I won't give out. I mean, that is what The Alchemist is about, and everybody should really read it because it's beautiful and it says it in a very poetic way. But I think your journey through blue-haired Niki and that era was so necessary for you to want to come back to being a child. And being a child is where we should all aspire to be because it's our most true self. I try and be my child self all the time. And it's very, very difficult because of the
Adult stress.
adult stresses. And I think really like social norms. We're meant to be a certain way.
We're talking like big picture Mount Everest stuff like earlier. I really want to make an effort to not give into that and just learn how to not, even though I am just a number, learn how to be the best number, you know?
And the best, you mean the happiest.
Yes.
Because you told us that is your goal.
Yeah, like peace. Do you ever just like see those people living really, really slow lives off the grid? Like in Hawaii?
I was going to say, not in LA.
Yeah, no. Like really slow lives. Like it makes you wonder, and my mind goes here. What, like, do we have to be a part of that? So, like, do we sometimes want more than we think we actually need? And we fall victim to that comparison game, and then we unintentionally put ourselves on the wheel when really maybe that won't lead to ultimate happiness, peace and happiness.
Without a doubt.
Like I can sit here and preach about this and talk about capitalism, but I'm definitely giving into it. And it's natural.
Yeah, without a doubt that is the case. But for somebody like me, I really genuinely love the hustle of moving forward and bettering myself. And
Same.
I really do love it. And
how do we stay like peaceful while doing that?
Yeah, that's one thing that my girl Cass, she always talks about. I mean, while I may be, the sign of a balance, I do not think that my balance is very good at all. I think that it's a little better.
Well, you're creative, so give yourself some. We're always in a chase with our creativity. After one good idea, on to the next. We can't celebrate that good idea or that good project. We're always on to the next.
Yeah. And I actually think that that's because I get a dopamine high of working on creatively fulfilling things. The thought of us being here today is where the dopamine kicks in and it pushes me to want to make this thing happen.
I mean, you literally said when you were making the coffee, you're like, I'm so excited. I almost don't even need this coffee.
That's exactly, wow. You just came up with even a better example. That's exactly right.
Came right out of your mouth.
It did. It's not the actual intake of the caffeine, but the
chemicals.
The thought of me getting to drink it, or not the podcast itself, which has been great, but the thought of us getting to sit down is what had me so excited.
So I do have a question, since we're way more similar than I even realized. Have you ever found yourself in a state of your life where before you had that awareness of needing that dopamine high from socializing, did you ever find yourself over busying yourself, socializing, and wondering and like being consistently happy and then having like a bigger come down, or like realizing you were busying yourself so hard and then you realized, fuck, I'm not like giving myself me time because it's such an addiction? It's the same way like a drug or a person. It's the same thing. Because I'm the same way. I get so excited and happy around people. So isolation and being alone is like very hard for me.
Yeah. I only found out about the lull of basically you needing to refill the dopamine in your body to just get back to baseline last month. I always knew that I was an extrovert and that I felt great whenever I was around friends. But earlier on in my life, I would just always be around friends. Always. And I never understood why I had days where I would just sleep and just sleep and just sleep. And now it totally makes sense that I was just always excited to be around people, that I needed full body repair to be around it again. Um, yeah,
Wow.
I've always, always, always flourished in social settings because it makes me feel so good. I mean, mostly whenever you know at least a couple people in the room. Although I love not knowing a single person and be bopping around and meeting people. But of course, like if you have your core people in there,
Yeah.
it's it just makes everything better. But I certainly do need, and I know now that I need that repair time.
That's so crazy. You're teaching me something. Like yesterday, I got back from Coachella. I spent the whole day sleeping, like all weekend.
But also, you know, you were up until like 5
Oh
a.m.
yeah, I was showing him some videos on a party bus, and he looked at the time. He's like, 5 a.m.
5 a.m. and it looked like you guys were just starting. I was like, oh my God.
It's wild.
I'm a grandpa. Like,
No, I felt like a grandpa. I was falling asleep while everyone was like, "Whoa!"
no offense to the grandpas out there that can do that. So that I think leads to probably the last topic that I'm certain that people are interested in, but I am too. Um, what what does what does life look like coming from pretty much your entire life being in a hetero relationship or hetero? Would you say like mental space? Like that was you thought of I'm supposed to be with a man and moving into more of a queer lifestyle now. And, what are the dynamic changes, way of life, way of mindset? Um, I'm just so curious because it's coming from a hetero man. It's hard for me to understand those two mindsets in one person. And I would love to hear.
So that's also a really good question. I obviously only identified, even though I knew I like had something in me when I was 12, I never explored it and I shut it down right away and almost put it in the back of my head and continued living and dated men. And anytime anything queer would come up, I'd be like, nope, nope. Wouldn't even let myself like ruminate about that idea because I knew I could possibly be. So it just never allowed it to process through my head. But during those years while I was only with men and dating and being hetero, I have more of those years under my belt than I do queer. And something I realized is the privilege you have just by being with the opposite sex, starting with perception. Man, this year I've really had to learn to let go of people's perceptions because even just walking in an airport with the opposite gender versus the same, I've cut lines in security with a boyfriend because old couples think it's cute. But if I'm with a girl, it's not the
Holy
same.
shit.
It's not
I
the
never
same.
would have thought about
It's
that.
not the same. On holidays, like my siblings, the second they're talking to someone new and it's a man, my family relatives have no problem bringing it up and wanting to hear all about it, but they all know I'm, not with a man, and it's not brought up like that, and I just have to like be happy for myself and with myself, and I can't bask in that joy with my family.
But I bet that I do feel like, at least out here, that a lot of people can just tell that you are now, maybe you always were, but you are clearly authentically being yourself.
That's the best part. I'm like talking about all the bad, but it's like I'm actively choosing this
Right.
because it makes me that much happier than all the bullshit I have to deal with. And that's how I know that's who I am. And now I identify as pansexual, not bisexual, because now I'm realizing when I like if I was to go somewhere single, I'm not looking for a gender, I'm looking for a vibe. I'm a vibe girl. It's like if you have a great personality and we have a connection and you have a great face, I'm into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're male, female, transgender. I can fall for anyone. And that's something I've realized. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I got a really big heart and I wear it on my sleeve and I let myself get hurt very easily. But I think that even looking back in the past, I think I've been falling for multiple types of people for a long time. And I didn't know that what that was because I never let myself dive into it. But it's you know, I think it says a lot to yourself when you know you're dealing with something hard and you're choosing a harder lifestyle, but you're still choosing it every day willingly. It says your actions speak louder than words. You can say you want XYZ, but if your actions are actively choosing the other thing, like that's who you really are. Your actions show you who you are. And I think my actions show me I am a part of this community way more than I thought I was. I am happy, makes me happy. And I also think that the quote or the saying "love is love" has taken on a whole new meaning to me. I think when I was in hetero relationships, I thought it was a pride thing. Oh, love is love, rainbow flag. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Love really is love. And how I felt with men is how I feel with women. And love feels the same way no matter what it looks like. When you're in love or being intimate, it's the same thing. Same feelings in your stomach, same everything. So I think that it's completely changed my entire framework of what I was raised thinking. And sometimes I think having such a long hetero history bites me in the butt sometimes because I know exactly how some people may be looking at me or what they may be thinking. And I have those voices in my head that I have to combat. Because I may have had those thoughts about other people growing up, and I'll admit it. Coming from a small town in Pennsylvania with a lot of conservative people around me in Catholic school, I hear those voices all the time. While I'm so happy with a person, it's like I still hear it. And I don't know if that'll ever go away. That's like 26, 27 years of all that being fed in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like working very hard on myself to like talk about it with my like queer support system, talk about it with my therapist, with my parents, with my sisters, and like talk about that experience. And like the more I normalize it and talk about it, I don't feel guilty for having those thoughts about my own self. I feel like sometimes I do judge myself. And it's like we're really working on that internalized homophobia that I was raised around.
Yeah. I think there are so many kids growing up in homes that are raised with that mentality. And again, it takes getting outside of that bubble. Again, probably leaving your state, your city, whatever, and experiencing things on your own to be subjected to new thoughts. And I just want to say that I think that that's incredibly beautiful. And it goes back to what I feel like is the key word of this podcast is happiness.
Success is happiness.
Yeah.
Like being successful with a family. Like when I was younger, I used to see my parents want to work hard to provide and give us really nice things. And that's how they saw success because of how they were raised. But when I see success with a family, I see everyone being able to wear their hearts on their sleeves, not being scared to say who they are, be who they want, no walking on eggshells. I don't want to put my kid in timeout and make them feel ashamed for crying. I want to ask what's wrong and let's like dig into the emotions of what's going on. We were raised, everyone was raised, our generation, like when you're crying, time out. But it's like, but why were you? What was going on? Like, and then we're raised to shut it the fuck up and just, or we'll get punished.
For sure. Actually having to sit down and explore that would be so much more healthy. I want to say that I think that it's really beautiful that it sounds like this new queer, I guess, era of your life that's starting right now is beautiful because what we were talking about is going back to your childhood self, and your 7-year-old self is looking at you right now and thinking, oh my God, like I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong for being obsessed with somebody on, America's Next Top Model, which is, I mean, it's so innocent. There was no filter on that thought.
And the
It was
girl
only
in my
until
dance
after.
class, like it's all making sense.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And do you remember back in the day where like people used to use like queer derogatory terms as jokes?
Oh yeah,
That was like very normalized in such a gross way, like in 2006.
absolutely.
Like you're blank.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being a blank.
Yes.
I just remember being like, I am blank. Oh no. And then I just like hid.
It was used in every other sentence, it felt like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm so glad that most people are socially aware of that now. And for those who aren't, I hope that they're put in an environment where they're shown that that's just not cool because it hurts other people.
I would love queerness to be, and I think this is the track we are on. I would love to see in the next 10 years, mommy and daddy being way more normal in like conservative areas of the country. And like, I don't know, I would love to see coming out as not even being a thing. Why the heck does somebody have to be like, I'm gay?
Yeah.
And I don't understand the concept of coming out.
The final point I want to make on this really is that it doesn't have to deal with who you want to be with in bed.
Well, it's love.
It's love.
The human imagination is incredible.
Absolutely. With that being said, Niki, it was freaking awesome having you on as my first guest. It was so simple. The conversation flowed so easily, and now we know how similar we are. It's pretty shocking and also awesome.
I know, like after this, we have to like for sure hang out.
I'm so down.
This is going to continue after the podcast.
For sure. We need you to move to LA,
Mm-hmm.
and I can be one of the people in your little social bubble.
Yes.
Unless you're doing a 5 a.m. crazy bus party thing. Because, like my asleep self will live vicariously somehow through that experience. But
not me like texting you at midnight last night. You're probably sound asleep, wrapped up in your bed.
I actually was. Do not disturb was on. But
I just started using that, and that's on self-care.
Oh yeah, mine at 9:30 at night goes automatically on.
I need to learn how to do that.
I'll show you.
Yes, let's do it before I leave. Because like that's boundaries. We can end it there. Like self-care is boundaries. And I've learned while ruining my life that the people that benefited the most was when I didn't understand that I could have boundaries.
Mm.
And they like took and took and took. And people will take when you're a good person and when you're nice, when you're an empath and you're a people pleaser. And I just want like the last message, like success will come when you find your happiness. And to find your happiness, you gotta like maybe ruin your life. And by saying ruin your life, it's listening to you and nobody else. Because you're ruining your life in their eyes, not yours.
I love that. What a great last message.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Guys, definitely like subscribe, follow Grounds for Success. And he's gonna really pop off. I feel it.
I hope to change some lives or just be able to touch a lot of them with some cool stories from cool guests.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And on that, I think I may have to pee a second time from my coffee.
All right. So now that you have listened or watched this episode, I'm sure that there are so many different things that you have taken mental note of on how you can implement into your life. I certainly have. I have a little notepad in front of me that I have all sorts of notes on. Niki is a wealth of knowledge, but there's a few that I want to highlight here. One of the big ones I loved, ruin your life. I mean, she wrote that on the chalkboard. She created, an album named after this. It's Ruined My Life. And this concept of just inviting like chaos into your life and really getting out of the safe and comfortable kind of daily routine will allow you to create new, different, novel ideas that wouldn't just typically come up in your mind. You have to shake things up a bit so that you don't get too much in a rut of continuing to make the same thing or, any creative field. It's the same. Just shake things up, not be mixing or working on this podcast or, filling every little gap with something. I'm sure this resonates with you, but just hearing from Niki, the traveling that she has done, the moments that she gives herself to just breathe and be out of content creation allows her to come back to the table with just more passion and just overall love and energy and everything that you could put into a craft that allows her to go as hard as possible. It's not possible without those little breathers. Another big takeaway resonates with me. I kind of mentioned it in the last point, but traveling. Now, I think that this actually kind of encompasses the ruin your life as well. I took a 4-month trip at one point in 2017, and just being able to see the world through different perspective, through different eyes, through different food and culture and ways of living allows us to come back to whatever we're creating with such a fresh perspective. I mean, it really does encompass the ruin your life and pausing to take a breather, but particularly traveling is just a huge thing. So if you're listening or watching this, maybe this is the the sign that you need to book that trip or to do that little weekend getaway or that little road trip or anything that gets you out of the place that you live daily, the cycle that you're in daily. Maybe this is the sign you needed. And I thought it was special that for Niki and pretty much every guest that I've had on, this is a very common theme at this point. If you're watching, I've recorded about 12 episodes now, or I have. And almost every single person says that success to them is just being happy. And happiness is to different people, different things. But for her, it's creating things that feel like hers. And that gives her power. It gives her this feeling of I actually made and own this thing. And that's happiness to her. And I thought that was beautiful. And I thought that I should bring that up and let you know that. Thanks for listening to the Grounds for Success podcast. I want to thank all of the people who work on this podcast and help me out. My team is everything to me. And without them, I couldn't bring these to you every single week. I couldn't post on social media, with all the clips that we have. And so I thank you guys so much. I want to also thank all of my clients on the mixing and mastering side, because without you, I could not have Grounds for Success. So thank you so much. If you're enjoying the Grounds for Success podcast, please follow, like, and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. It helps us out a ton, and I want to keep getting this content to you in whichever way you listen or watch.